Hello, and welcome to your Pointers for Parents podcast, where we support parents with anxiety related to teens transitioning out of the home after high school, whether heading off to the college campus, the military base, or simply residential interdependence. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Lloyd, and on today's episode, we will discuss safety, which is a focus of every parent whose teen is leaving home. Our guest, Robert Powers, who is a college consultant and founder of College Torch, will discuss a particular act that places requirements on universities today that could help you and your teen remain crime averse. So please listen in, lean in, and learn as I tell you about our guest. Robert Powers, he earned his bachelor's and his master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. He's experienced regarding being a college consultant, and he has helped hundreds of teens through the chaotic college search and application process. He helps them focus on themselves and envision trajectories of their life in an effort to create their best college list. And we all know that that's important. Robert has specialties in the UC admissions process, financial aid, and he helps the LGBTQ plus students. In the past, he served on the reading committees for the Coca-Cola Scholarship. He has professional memberships in the Higher Education Consultants Association, the National Association College Admissions Counseling, and the Western Association, of course, College Admissions Counseling, and participates in a plethora of speaking opportunities and conferences. So I am so excited to welcome Robert. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. And so listen, let's just jump right in. I mentioned the act, and I'm specifically talking about the Clery Act and how this act is used as a catalyst, if you will, for change, Robert.
Absolutely. So the Clery Act requires colleges to be more transparent about crime and student violations on campus and off campus. For colleges, this provides some accountability for them, not only to share information that they have, that honestly, colleges aren't always good actors, especially in the public space. And so they may otherwise have had an incentive to hide this information. Clery Act requires them to publish it at least annually. That provides accountability for them. Is good because the colleges will then hopefully be incentivized to prevent crimes. The Act also requires colleges to be aware of how to support victims of crimes and prevent them from happening in the future. So all of that is really good stuff. But of course, colleges are very good with paperwork, and this is paperwork. So I think that the Act is just a foundation for the work that colleges need to do. And ultimately, when colleges want to get around the work or subvert the work, then I think that they can do that as well. And that's where parents come in and students, as they are, in the driver's seat of the college search. And they are not just reading reviews and rankings, but they are really diving into the college search to learn about these colleges, which means when they look at the Clery Act data, that they're not just looking down the list and making assumptions, but that they are really going to try to figure out what if this is relevant, what if this is worth following up and asking questions to specific people, not just the college, but also students who are a wonderful resource in the college search as current students. And I think that that's the hardest part for my families when they're concerned about safety. It's hard to separate the reality of what's happening and could happen on a college campus from the narratives that make them feel scared, that when they're looking at the data, all sorts of stories pop up, but they're out of context. I think that in some ways that the Clery Act data can lead families to make false assumptions as often as they're making, as finding good information. For example, if they open up the Clery Act data and it's pages and pages and pages long, or these numbers are very high usually, that could just mean that that the college is in a city, and of course, cities have more people. So the fact that there is more crime doesn't necessarily mean that uh, they're more unsafe, especially when you consider that these are crimes that have been addressed. Also, some of them could be not that they're irrelevant, but they warrant a question. How does this really affect me? What does this say about campus life? So, if two catalytic converters were stolen, like does that tell us about what it's like to be a college student or to be traveling off campus? If so, what exactly is that? And can we talk about it? So my number one advice for families with the Clery Act is when you look at the numbers and the data, try to find questions out of that. Don't just use that to make a conclusion about the college, but instead ask your questions. Um, Also, remember, I think this is the most important thing. Remember that the Clery Act does not include any information about crimes or violations that are unreported, both by the student, if something happens and they don't say anything because they're afraid and they live in a culture of fear, or because they did try to share it with administration, but the administration did not act upon it or acted in the wrong way upon it. This most often happens, I think, with hazing and with sexual assault on campuses. And while catalytic converters are very expensive, sexual assault is one of the number one things that I think there are there are to be legitimately worried about, because it's the kind of thing that happens when no one's watching, when and in that fuzzy gray area where it's like, do I say something or do I not say something? And this is really where culture comes in, and I think more than it does the the data, and 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 then that's the work of the college search.
Mm. I think that that is so powerful in itself, what you mentioned, because typically when parents think about their teens moving towards the college campus, they're looking at all of these other aspects like test scores and what the college has to offer, and they're looking at will their teen have the support, and whether they're coming in as a regular student, or even if they have special needs, they're looking at all of these areas, and just the idea of safety, which is important, but knowing the stats around that as it relates to the university. This is a thought that many parents just, for them to just embrace that, they're just simply without that knowledge. So I think that that's powerful in itself. So thank you so much for just even your willingness to talk about that. So in that same vein, when talking about, just what parents ought to be thinking about and considering, when we focus just on the challenges in itself, what would be like the top three challenges that you would say, Robert, that teens face on the college campus? You mentioned, of course, just, the sexual assault and those types of things. How can they overcome? What are the challenges and how can they overcome those?
Great question. I think it always depends on the college, because there are so many different options out there, that it's possible, if you know in advance what your concern is, you can find college campuses that have really worked to make things very supportive in in a specific area. Uh, but generally, I'd say that an easy one to talk about is mental health and mental health supports. The Of course, school stresses kids out, but that can look different in different places. In large pressure cooker schools like the UC schools, it's a culture of pressure, that students, compete against each other, and they feel like they need to have these high grades and meet expectations. Students who want to go on to med school or law school or grad school actually really do need very high grades, and at some schools they can't all have them. So to have all of this pressure on them, they're going to need some supports. The supports can come from the other students, collaborative community, as not all schools are collaborative, but it can be nice when they are. But also from the school itself and from parents. So the support from the school could look like a center or resources, or sometimes silly things that actually work, like when they bring the puppies on the day of the finals. But for parents, I think that if you can establish some mental health resources and support for students before they leave for the campus, they may actually really, really come in handy. And all of a sudden, because colleges generally can't do an exceptional job providing mental health um, support like therapy, therapists or counselors on campus. It's just very expensive. So when it's offered minimally and with restrictions. Uh, I'd say two other things that students might struggle with on campus are the resources, and that's similar to what we just talked about. Not only do students need resources, but they don't know what they need. And if they finally figure out both of those things, then they need to. And sometimes that they're unclear on that their university doesn't offer it, or how those restrictions that I mentioned. An example being that when I was in college, I actually never used the Career Services Center, but I was really struggling with what was I going to do with myself. And I look back at that. I can't connect the dots on that. Like why we had a Career Services Center. I never went into it, but I was struggling with this thing. And I think there's just a bunch of things that need to happen in order for you to both realize what you need, go to get it, and then make sure that it's there. Another thing is that kids are discovering themselves in college. And while that sounds like a wonderful journey, it is a wonderful journey, but it also requires some support and can lead students in this kind of direction as that's the real kind of experience of discovering yourself and going on a journey, not usually an aha and there we are. So this can lead students into dangerous situations that they might not recognize as dangerous. And that's part of the experience of college, is navigating things like that. And again, this is where having conversations in advance, providing supports, and letting students know that they can make a call. They can call to parents, make a call to friends or someone that they trust, or helping kids figure out when is the correct time to call law enforcement. Is potentially going to make them safe at a future point in their lives.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you began by mentioning it's important for parents and students to know what they need before they even really are seeking out or even stepping on the college campus. I remember my oldest daughter, she knew that she wanted to pursue engineering. And I knew that safety was on the top of my list for her. And when she was accepted into Virginia Tech, I knew that there had been some violence in previous years. And so I found myself in talking with the campus police to see what measures was put in place there on the campus from that previous violent act, to ensure a parent such as myself, who was 17 driving hours away, to make sure that that safety component was in place, and to know that they had gone above and beyond to make sure that those measures were there, helped me to feel comforted. And so I totally agree that that is essential. It's critical. It's crucial in order to know just like what's at the top and what's important. So thank you so much for sharing that. And so when we talk about the questions that parents should ask, like during that university campus visit and during that tour, and getting that insight that's needed. So what would you say as far as the safety measures and what should exist there on the college campus? Your thoughts, Robert?
So during the campus tour, usually though, at almost every college, they're going to take a big moment to stop at one of the blue buttons, and they're going to say, "This is our blue button system," and you press the blue button, and someone's going to come in a flash. This is happening almost everywhere. They've got the blue button system. You press the security, and the security button, security will come. I think that's an example of a time when you're being given the information that you want to hear, and you can feel relaxed. And I think take up the college on that if you want. But if you need to ask real questions, then ask real questions, ask specific questions, because in a way, the blue button stop is theater. I mean, it's everywhere, and of course they can come in that amount of time, but do they come in that amount of time? Is That's hard. That's hard to know. I think one of the questions that can be asked that's pretty innocuous, like it's not going to offend someone, is just whether the campus uses campus security, private security, or whether they use city police, or like a specific branch of the police department. Because of course, one of those works for the university, and one of those does not work for the university. And there are pros and cons to each one of them. With the police, you know that they're serious and they are at work, and also they're not accountable to the university if the university feels like something should happen or something shouldn't happen. But the private security, if it's done well, can provide a feeling of safety to students who don't feel safe around the police. And I think that is actually a really special thing when they can get it right. The feeling of being able to walk on your own campus in the middle of the night at 12:30 a.m. because why not? Wandering around campus, having conversations or being alone, and just always seeing someone in a neon vest somewhere. Just knowing it's safe. If you trust your university to do that well, then I think that system has a lot of merit. The university tour is ultimately marketing. And I think that's really important to remember. Maybe this student is paid, in which case, remember you're talking to someone who's paid by the university to talk to you. Maybe they're unpaid, but even still, you're at a marketing experience with just like a sales seminar. You're with a group of parents walking through the campus, and you can really only expect so much from that tour. So I love for families to go to the college campus when school is in session. There are real students walking around having real experiences. You can people watch. You can see what they do when they think no one's watching. How do they walk? Where are they going? And when you feel comfortable, students should have conversations with them without parents. So I think parents should leave the students alone, the students at least for 30 minutes during the day, so students can walk around and have that experience of being on campus alone and seeing how they feel. Do they feel comfortable? Do they feel safe? But then talking to a real student is so powerful, and asking just open-ended questions at that point. You don't have to get the information out of them. The students are going to share their real experiences.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. Earlier, you mentioned the culture of the campus, and I'm uncertain if many parents even, think about it as a culture, if you will. And so when we talk about many people apply for a position in their workplace. They're wanting to pursue a company, and they're wanting to, get a good feel there. What is that culture there? But even on a college campus, I'm uncertain if we even really think, but it truly is a culture there as well. Can you speak to that in reference to, it being okay, sometimes we just, but a positive culture is what we want on a college campus. So help us to understand a little bit about what that even looks like or what that feels like, please. How to recognize that.
Absolutely. So you can look at the students and see what they're doing. For example, are they collaborating, and are they integrating? So in some places they have cliques and they keep apart. But it's so wonderful to see. It can be small campuses or big campuses when the groups are coming together. Among the faculty, do the faculty have connections with the students? And are they, even if it's one of those big schools where they just don't do that, where they don't connect with students, are they open about who they are? So are there faculty who are proud of their identities, and their work outside of the school, as they're not just professors? They could be in quirky bands. Do they get to share themselves? And are they scared? Because a lot of times the students can be safe, at least physically, but there can be a culture of fear somewhere. And of course, it goes to the employees first. And also just, administratively, organizationally, are there supports for students? Because a positive culture, students who are having um, who are having needs, either small needs or a crisis, they're going to know where to go in advance, not go to ask someone where to go, and they're going to have resources there for them because the school knows that if somebody is is in distress, that's going to impact the culture negatively later. They know that that's preventative, so it saves them. It's good for the college when students are experiencing good stress and not bad stress, that they know where to go when something's wrong and that they feel like they can share that and should share that. And when ultimately they have the things that they need to be well. On the other side of this, I think that it's important to recognize what a negative campus culture is, and that would be one of fear and lack of awareness or disrespect. And those things show up so subtly because scared people don't look like scared people. What what do they look like? And by asking questions, listening, and paying attention, you can try to catch this. Uh, if if you're talking to a student, a question to ask is, how do minority students feel on campus? How do women feel on campus? How do women feel off campus or at social events? And and try to listen to people talking about it because I think some of the most toxic things on campus can be misogyny. Uh, yes, and also just that environment where things are where people are not aware. People aren't aware of other cultures, or people aren't aware of other people's struggles, and so everything is very inward, and it comes out unsupportive. So, if you're interested in fraternities, you can go. You should go talk to those people before you get there. Figure out what those environments are like, and if you're not interested in them, learn about what they are before you get there, and see how many. See the percentage of them. So that's part of the college search. You can find the percentage of students in Greek life. Sometimes students who really don't want to be anywhere near fraternity parties, which would be different, but they learn that half of the campus is going to them, and or 30% of the campus is going to these parties, and it can feel hard to avoid them. So I help students find out whether those happen.
So you know what? What comes to mind is even a deeper question. I'm wondering who on campus would the parent or the student go to talk about um, these struggles before they have even accepted admittance into the university so that they can feel you speak about the person who's a minority or the person who is having struggles. Maybe there's an advisor or a psychologist or something on campus, whereas there can be a previous meeting set up just in case they need to have some type of meaningful dialogue. Typically, universities have psychologists or something like that, I'm thinking, as you're responding to that question.
A wellness center is a resource. They are typically very stretched. You can definitely go talk to them, see what they say. Don't be surprised if they're stretched, which is to say they don't have much time for you. But the admissions is the front-facing resource there, and the admissions office is ready very quickly with all of the resources of the wellness center. And again, just talking around students, you can figure out whether they actually use the wellness center, and whether if they need to get in, how long it takes them to get in, any restrictions, and then the level of awareness of the wellness center. So when it comes to mental health and physical health, um, you know, there are special needs of certain populations that, if they just don't get it, they may not even be able to help you when you need it. Um, for example, if the wellness center is not supportive when it comes to substance dependence, then students may feel like they need to hide something that they struggle with, or LGBTQ health. If they're
Mm-hmm.
not, if if the school is not aware of that or practiced in that, then they could just refer those students off campus.
Mm-hmm. I can totally see that. I can totally see that happen. Thank you for sharing that resource. And I think that a lot of times, yes, the wellness center is overlooked. And I'm uncertain if right, if there's even an awareness from time to time. It may be mentioned a little bit during even the tour, but to really encourage them to lean into the wellness center. I think that may be absent from time to time. And so when we talk about it, along the lines of talking about that support and even from a parent's perspective and parenting at a distance, what support can a parent give their teen? While they're away, this distance has been created, and while the teen is there, the parent is here. How can then the parent continue to support the teen?
So I think that being, uh, I think being, sorry, I think encouraging students to call when they
Mm.
are feeling like they're not safe, which is different than calling only when they're in danger. But just when they feel like something isn't right, just to talk it out, and then encouraging students to find their other people for that. So not just parents, but recognize and identify 5 people in their on-campus lives that they can go to for that as well. As sometimes they'll be able to be supported differently, and sometimes there will just be things that students won't call their parents about. So in addition to making sure that you are always there and that they feel like they can always pick up the phone and call you, also to make sure that they've got their other people feel good to call them as well. I think that students need to learn how to recognize danger. I have seen colleges that are able to teach this, especially colleges in the city, that it's a city school and students may come to campus not knowing how to live in a city, and they'll teach students, pay attention, how to recognize a dangerous situation versus a busy situation, or something else. As sometimes things can look really busy, but then you're not in danger. And sometimes there can be absolutely no one around you, but something's off. And what is that feeling? That feeling of something is being off. And how do you know when it's turning into something real? And that's a skill. It takes practice. Parents can work on that with their teens now. What's an unsafe situation? If you pass by an unhoused person or a mentally unwell person on the street, uh, students are going to feel like this is different. Is it dangerous? If so, what about it is dangerous? Um, can we look back on the past 5 experiences like that and identify of the 5, which ones were actually dangerous, which ones felt dangerous but weren't, and which ones truly weren't dangerous? If you stretch students' ability to recognize danger versus fear versus just that different kind of feeling that something's different, not something's dangerous, and students are going to be able to continue to stretch that on campus, uh, depending on what their environment is, or just whatever it is. Lastly, uh, I think that parents can really support kids by affirming that college is a place for failure, that failure is good, and that failure has consequences sometimes, often, but that the consequences can be good in the long run, that we're learning. If they went to college and they didn't have any uh, struggles, if they didn't have any failures, they honestly, you're not getting your investment. And they may have all A's, but they're going to fail later after college when they're not in as protected and safe an environment, when they won't be supported, when they won't have um, as easily an ability to to grow and process from it. I think that you're going to miss out if you avoid the failure. So so that then it becomes, if failure is a good thing, what do we do when we fail? We talk about it. We make a plan. We take ownership and responsibility, and then we grow from it.
I just love all of that. I just love all of that. You begin to talk just a little bit there about the feelings and what's a dangerous situation, what's a situation whereas it may not be danger, but have I experienced this before? It's almost as though you were walking even towards emotional intelligence and parents being able to teach that to their teen. And we know under the umbrella of emotional intelligence and being able to understand, be self-aware and understand what are you feeling, and then being socially aware and how am I feeling in this situation with this other person, and am I able to recognize their nonverbal cues and just their facial expressions, and me being able to interact. Relationship management. What is my relationship with this person that that I'd like to be friends with them, maybe not. And then also social management and being able to just manage just situations and circumstances that we're interacting with people. So that is critically important that be taught, and that there's like meaningful dialogue around that. Because let's be honest, I love when you say that college, that's a time where you experience failure. Like it's the holistic approach. It's not just academics, but it's like just who are you as a person. You've given so many good takeaways. I mean, I was just jotting as you were speaking, and I love when you say, before before you even go off, like establish the need, making sure that need is there, and that the university, that they're able to fulfill that. They ought to have those resources in place. And then how do you go, not the campus tour itself, but how do you go about just, asking more insightful questions on those college tours, and going deeper, and just not even just, leaving it at that blue button, but, will they be there in a timely manner, and just, what can I expect? And then, that whole, we as parents, before our teens go off, like we've embraced and we've like accumulated those key people so that we're able to establish that parent posse. But here it is, you're talking about a peer posse. Like, your parents may not be able to like relate, and you may feel uncomfortable in reference to reaching out to them. And here it is, the parents, there's this new relationship that's going to form anyway, that a new relationship that's going to be revived after this teen has experienced and smell this new freedom. Then that parent teen relationship is going to change. And so the peer posse is key. So I'm so excited that you even mentioned that. So these tips you've tossed and these gems you've dropped have been invaluable. So thank you so very much. So if individuals want to come in contact with you, Robert, which would be so important if they have further questions or want to learn more about your business and College Torch, how can they go about doing that? Tell me.
They can go to my website, www.collegetorch.com. There should be an admissions timeline there on the front page that they can download if they have a teen going through the college admissions process. If they download that timeline, they'll be in touch with me too.
Okay, awesome. Fair enough and simple enough. And so for others, or those of you who want to see this again because you've missed some of these tips that Robert have dropped, then you'll want to follow on Pointers for Parents, that we're on IG. We're on a number of different, of course, social media sites, but you'll want to definitely follow IG. It's at Pointers for Parents. That's where this will be located. Then also you want to tune in, of course, for our guest next week, and she will be talking about empty nesting and what that feels like and how to prepare for that. And so again, Robert, thank you so very much for being here and for just sharing with us how parents can think through that whole safety component prior to their teen even leaves for the college campus. So thank you. And maybe in the future, you may revisit or join us again at some point. We'd certainly love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. I love this. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care, Robert. Bye.